Boo.
Good morning, it's 8:30. Welcome to the May 17th meeting of the Board of Franklin County Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Present.
Commissioner Harris?
Present.
Chair Dickinson?
Present.
Commissioner Dunn?
Present.
Vice Chair Waymire?
Present.
Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning.
Let us pray. Lord, we are grateful to be in your presence this morning, knowing that you hold all things in your hands, that nothing escapes, Lord, your permission in your grasp. Pray for these leaders in our community, that as they lead today, they would lead well, that your Holy Spirit would grant wisdom where it's needed, would grant perseverance and resilience, Lord, and that all things would be made for the glory of you in our community and for our community to be in unity. We thank you, Lord, for your presence. We ask that you would bless this day, bless this time that these folks have together, and just pray that you would go forward as you already have to prepare a way. Thank you for our freedom. Thank you for all the blessings in which we enjoy. And we ask for your mercies and your grace. And we ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, we have several items of correspondence and organizational business. The first one is a QuickCom update and a request for letter of support for two projects that are seeking grant funds for in Franklin County. And we have a representative, John Terry from QuickCom.
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Hand these out to you, so you got a paper copy.
Thank you.
And what I'm passing
Morning
out-
again.
Morning. Look. These are copies of two Kansas Link grant projects QuickCom's applying for here in Franklin County. As you can see, one of the grants covers Princeton and Richmond completely, and some of the adjacent rural areas, 2 square miles outside of town. And the other covers rural Wellsville to the south and west over in the 45 highway. It picks up the loop, which the residents there are happy about because they've been trying to get our wireless broadband there forever, and it's in a low spot, and we've never been able to find a solution to hit them. For those of you who aren't familiar with QuickCom, we've been in Franklin County for over 10 years providing rural broadband wireless outside of the city limits of most of the cities and inside the city limits of some of the cities. And within the past couple of years, we've started working on some fiber projects here in the county. We applied for and got a grant to build Pomona and actually the 68 highway corridor west from Ottawa all the way out to Quinamo and Osage County. And we're getting ready to start on that project here within the next couple of weeks. We are working on an agreement with the city of Ottawa to privately build the city, the entirety of city limits. So both of these projects would basically complement that. We'd get 68 highway going out towards Miami County and the 35 highway corridor. I'm here today to ask the county if you would be willing to write a letter of support for our project, and also if the county would be comfortable with a small co-investment for each of these projects. We project that the projects are gonna cost $3.5 million apiece on the low side. And while we plan on doing the 50-50 match with the state of Kansas on these, we have seen in the past that our successful grants, all of them have had a co-investment of some kind from the communities that are affected. It doesn't have to be a significant sum of money. It's just a way to show the state that the county recognizes the need for this and is chipping in some skin in the game, so to speak.
I think we would need a lot more information before we did money, but
Absolutely.
not a no. What dollar per potential user? I have to imagine that's kind of something that's considered when you're looking at these projects.
Cost per passing, you mean?
There you go.
Yes. Yep, cost per passing is definitely a factor when you're applying for grant funding. Because going and privately building something where you're looking at $2,500+ per passing, your return on investment is decades down the road.
Sure.
That's the reason the state of Kansas set these grants up.
Is that, yeah, like the rural electrification did
Exactly.
100 years ago now.
That's actually a great example because that's kind of the direction that even at the federal level, things are moving in.
Yeah.
We're fortunate in Kansas that the state has been forward-looking enough that they're miles down the road compared to other states in terms of getting the fiber out to the rural areas.
So for these projects, kind of what's that number? What's that compared to other grants you're seeing? I mean, I have to imagine that's part of what would dictate your success.
In terms of,
Do you have good, is that number, you say 2,500?
yeah,
Is that,
just as
is that kind of what you're seeing with other grants that are getting awarded?
Yeah, the state has focused heavily on funding rural projects.
Sure.
In fact, when we submitted the Pomona project, we initially only included 1 square mile on either side of 68 Highway going west. And the state was intrigued with the project because of the rural pickup, but they actually asked us to expand that out even further to pick up more of the rural properties going along 68 Highway.
Good.
I mean, so like my mile is included in your, between the Princeton to Richmond area, and there's only 4 houses in my whole mile, 2 on each side. So do you actually lay line on both sides or on one side and then?
We'll go on one side and we'll put a handhole. We put a handhole at every mile through the rural areas. That way, if there is a house there, we can splice off of that handhole, and if we have to drill under the road, we'll do that. But everything in these shaded areas is going to have access to 10 gig capable fiber to the home.
And then what is the cost to put it from the, where you lay it to the house? Is there a cost?
We typically just charge a $95 one-time installation fee and then your monthly fee. In some surrounding counties, we have heard of competitors going to homes on the other side of the road and saying, hey, for $5,000, we'll pull the line under there. That's not how we're building this out, and that's not how we've done things in the past.
Cool.
What easement would you use? What would you travel in? Whose easement?
Just the public rights of way. So it would be, we would get permitting from the county, KDOT where needed, at the city level if needed. And then any private property we go across, obviously we would, if we're going to go outside of the public right of way, we can't do that.
Yeah, the
without
reason why I
permission of the
asked, I
landlord.
know, because the one, they just finishing on the other side of the county, the phone company already has, they just run in their own easement is what they're doing.
Right.
And I didn't know how yours would work over here, being you didn't have, you'd have to get permission from somebody else's easement.
Right, yep, we'd be using the public rights of way where the utilities already are. So we'd be in the public easement.
What was the criteria for this, the map itself?
Basically, we looked at 2 things. One thing we looked at is areas that we already have customers in with our broadband wireless internet. We've had a lot of loyal customers in Franklin County since we came here, and what we're ultimately trying to do is make sure that we can get fiber to as many of them as possible. Both of these areas have high concentrations of QuickCom wireless customers, so that was important to us. But also, looking at the county and looking at the paths of development and where opportunities exist for Franklin County, looking at that 35 highway corridor and the land out there, the new industrial park where it sets, kind of drove some of the decision-making on the Wellsville layout. And then 59 Highway right now, currently I think there's only one universal carrier trunk of fiber going down 59. There's nothing currently publicly accessible on 59 Highway. We do have fiber in Garnett, and the eventual goal would be to come down 59 Highway all the way through the county to Garnett to connect the 2 networks. This would be a big part of that.
Imagine those paved corridors by their nature have a lot of people along them.
I'm sorry?
I said I would imagine those paved corridors by their nature have a lot of people along them.
They do, that's
Or-
right.
that you're trying to catch.
I'm a quick customer, but you bypassed me
Oh, yeah, we do?
on this map, because
Roy, were you a
Where
bit?
where do you need to take it out to, Jerry?
I need to go right over here to Montana Road.
Well, as these grants continue to come out, KBAG has 7 more years, so there'll be 7 more years of grant funding. And the goal is once you get plows in the ground and crews on the ground, not to pull them off and send them elsewhere. So
Once, what have you seen other counties, municipalities, you said chip in, I forget the word you used, but.
The last county
contribute.
partnership we were in was with Montgomery County, and they chipped in $225,000. That was on a CPF grant that covered a very remote area in the center of their county that was very important to agribusiness. And they did not have all of their ARPA funding committed, so that was, and the CPF grant was different than the Link grant. Co-investment in that case was expected to be much more substantial than it is with the Link grant.
So what are you even thinking as far as what you might want us to consider?
Miami County in the last round, for each person that submitted an application, I believe co-invested $15,000 per project as their token, here's our co-investment for the projects. We did get a co-investment commitment from Franklin County ECDev, for $1,000 for each project. There's, really, guys, I don't know what your budget is, I don't know what your commitments need to be, it's whatever the county's comfortable with. Anything would signify to the state that this is important to the county.
Ones you highlighted were all successful?
They were all successful. Miami County did have 2 unsuccessful applicants, but they also had 2 successful applications in the last round.
So you need a letter when, and you need a commitment when?
The application is actually due on June 16th, so there's time.
All right.
So before
lot,
June
though.
16th.
Yeah. So you need to know whether we're gonna do a letter of support and if we're going to contribute.
We'll do a letter of support regardless.
Yeah.
And Janet and I need time to look at the budget. We just asked our department heads to submit a revenue neutral budget to us, which they've done. And so before we turn around and start handing money out, we need to do that analysis. But I would agree with what Colton said. I think they're great projects. I think we'll be able to find the capacity to do it, but we need to look at our actual budget and figure out what that looks like. But in the letter, if the 5 of you decide we want to contribute, we'll just put that amount in the letter so that the state knows right there, not only do we support it, but we're willing to put X amount of dollars behind the project as well. All of that can be done well before June 16th.
Could we still use some of our government money, or?
Yes,
haven't committed
but
yet?
we've got plenty that we haven't, but we've got a lot of competing
know, we have a lot of-
considerations
yeah.
for that. But yes, absolutely, we can.
That Pomona, Quinamo, you laid fiber out there? That was a cable project?
We're starting on that project here in a couple of weeks, yes. And that's going to be fiber to the home to every premise in that area.
And did you get any money from you didn't get money from the county for those, did you?
We didn't. We got 10,000 from Quinamo and 6,500, or I'm sorry, 10,000 from Pomona and 6,500 from Quinamo. The application deadline for that was fairly quick. There was like a 3-week turnaround once the state finally got all the moving pieces put together. So we were basically running by the seat of our pants to try to get that grant submitted.
For what you have, the customers you have now, have you laid fiber, or have you laid, not fiber, have you laid cable already? Have you been working in our right-of-ways? Do you have a history of being in our right-of-ways?
No,
it's
I
all
think
over.
here on the Pomona project will be the first time. We did actually, we did pull fiber to the Ottawa Co-op where we have some wireless equipment. So we have done that. But
We have a history of telecommunications, of course, using our right-of-way, which they're, well within their rights, acting horribly, not, following our standards, throwing cable through culverts,
yeah.
not hardly burying it at all. So that in turn, for the roads, if they want to ditch, if they want to grade roads, replace a culvert, I mean, they're causing a lot of cost and work for our people. So
Yeah,
no offense, if you had a bad history, I don't think I would want to
no.
money to, but
In fact, if you
have it.
if you went back and talked to Allen County, Anderson County, Garnett, Iola, any of the cities that we've built and operated in, I think you'd get a fairly uniform,
Good, okay.
good review of the work that we've done.
Good.
We also use in-house labor. At this point, we realize that as we continue to grow, there's going to be points in time where we're going to have to use contractors, whether we want to or not. The work's just going to dictate it. But for now, and here in Franklin County, we intend to use our own in-house labor out of Iola and out of Garnett. So these are going to be our guys on the ground out here doing the work.
Good.
Which means we know where they live, we know who they are. And, you know, likewise, we're headquartered in Iola, so you guys know where we are also.
So you're going to bury them good and deep.
They're gonna be very
because-
good and deep because we don't want to have to come back out and splice them either.
Yeah, that's right. And we
Somebody
need to,
does
because
hit
we
'em.
need to do more ditch work, so we don't want to be dealing with them down the
Yep.
road. So that'd be awesome.
And I know in Garnett, we collaborated with the city when they had to do water line work. We were there building anyways, and even though it was in a separate part of town from where we currently were, it was like, hey, here's an opportunity to go out there while they're already blading and just coordinate with them to get the duct in the ground, and it worked out pretty well for us and for them. And also, guys, just to be clear, I'm here today, this is just an introductory, here's the areas. We have not completed the engineering 100% yet. We do not have final costing in. We will have those details later on, so if it would help the commission, I can come back in a couple of weeks with those details to share with you guys.
And I would say by then, we'll have a good idea of, we still need to have the ARPA discussion, and coincidentally, I was gonna discuss that today, but yeah, it will give Janet and I time to take a closer look at our budget so that we could give the board more of a recommendation. But yeah, seeing those engineering plans would be helpful.
Okay, great. I'll plan on coming back in a couple of weeks then and sharing that information with you guys.
I mean, you know that the state is really invested in this. They have now this broadband agency that really is focusing on that, so.
Yes, and in every round that we've applied for, we have won grants in, so we're familiar with how they operate, how they like to see the work done, and, you know, we don't want to, you know, pretend that the state, you know, likes us more than anybody else. That's certainly not true, but we cooperate well with them, and we tend to do well with these grant applications. So we
Does
have high
this
hopes.
abut the MOCAN project?
I think it does on the eastern side of Richmond and Princeton,
Okay.
or that would be the northeastern side up there by Rock Creek Road, but,
Then maybe the south of the other one?
yep.
There's no redundancies there, or?
No.
Yeah.
No, there'd be no reason for us to overbuild anything they've done.
Sure.
Do you get any feedback on, so in Miami County, they submitted 4 projects, is that what you said? And 2 of them got funded?
Yep.
Do you, and I could call over there to their administrator too, you get any feedback on why certain projects are selected and others aren't?
A big component, I believe, is local support. That's one of the reasons we go out and solicit small co-investments from the community members and as many support letters as we can, collect speed tests from people in the area. Basically, it's up to the provider to make a strong case that this area is unserved or underserved.
So over there, do you feel like the ones that got approved had more local support than those that didn't?
I think Miami County, what happened over there was you had about 5 separate areas that people were looking to build in. You had Comcast looking at the unfinished part of Spring Hill. MOCAN is an ILEC. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term, but they're a telephone carrier, so they have a defined area that they get federal subsidized money to provide copper telephone service to. So they were looking within their ILEC there. People's Telecom out of Lynn County is looking at their ILEC, which comes up into southern Miami County. And then I believe there were Brightspeed, which is CenturyLink, applied for the entire county. They applied for the eastern third of Kansas, more or less. And I believe MOCAN got both of the awards that they applied for in Miami County. And those were in very rural areas. It basically goes across county line from the Rantoul project they're doing here, and then over by Hillsdale. Big swath of, big chunk of rural area that they got awarded, which is great for the folks who live out there.
Are you working with Paul on this in some capacity, or?
Yeah, I've had some conversations with Paul about helping generate some support and
Yeah. I just wonder, and I wouldn't expect a financial contribution of any magnitude, but Richmond, Princeton, Central Heights, we could get letters of support. Yeah, well, and to be clear, that has has no bearing on what my recommendation to the board would be. It's more just to increase the likelihood that the grant gets funded.
Yep. Talked to Richmond, and they've got, of course, a water and sewer project going on down there. They got a lot of commitments, but they indicated that they would write a letter of support. And then I talked to Chris at Princeton, and I'm meeting with them at their June meeting to talk to them about this. Wellsville did commit to getting a letter of support for this project,
Yeah, good.
so the local support does appear to be there.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm going to be disappointed if it doesn't. It's like, darn. All right. Any other questions? All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Okay? Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
All right, our second item is a proclamation formally designated May 14th to 20th as 2023 Police Week. And Don Stottlemyre is going to be reading this proclamation.
I'll read it? Okay. Whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, and whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,785 law enforcement officers in the United States have the ultimate sacrifice been killed in the line of duty, including Deputy Sam Smith of Franklin County Sheriff's Office, and whereas 556 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 224 officers killed in 22 and 332 officers killed in previous years. Whereas it is important that everyone know and understand the duties, hazards, responsibilities, and sacrifices that their sheriff's office, and whereas members of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of our citizens, and whereas in 1961, President John F. Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as a National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls as Police Week, established by a joint resolution of Congress. National Police Week pays special attention to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty and for the safety and protection of others. Therefore, be it resolved, the Franklin County Board of County Commissioners formally designates May 14th, 20th, 2023 as a Police Week in Franklin County and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in the communities across the nation.
Signed the 17th day of May. I know last night on the news, they had a report on the national service that they had. And as soon as you hear the bagpipes, you're like, we've been hearing too many bagpipes around the country this year.
I just want to say thank you to the board and just highlight the proclamation talks about Sam Smith. And just as a reminder, we do have a training center. Our training room is named in honor of Sam. And his mom, Katie, is still a very active part of the Sheriff's Office family, serves on our foundation board. And we actually have a Sam Smith Memorial Scholarship, and I'll be presenting 2 of those scholarships this evening at an award ceremony at the high school to honor Sam and his life. And there are going to be names added to the memorial in Kansas as well this year, and we will have a representation at the ceremonies for that, which will be tomorrow and then Friday. But I just want to say thank you to the board and for the community for all the support and for remembering the sacrifices that people made, especially Sam.
Appreciate that. So you need a motion to accept the proclamation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do that. Awesome. All right. Then we have one more proclamation. This one formally designates May 21st to 27th as Emergency Medical Services Week. Christy Hilliker.
Hello.
And Roy Dunn is going to read this one.
Yes, I got the honor to read this proclamation number 2306 says, whereas emergency medical service is a vital public service, and whereas the members of the Franklin County EMS and other emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas the emergency medical service system in Franklin County consists of emergency medical dispatchers, first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, and whereas the members of these emergency medical teams engage in multiple hours of specialized training and continued education to enhance the skills necessary to care for the ill and injured, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of these highly trained frontline professionals. Therefore, be it resolved that the Franklin County Board of Commissioners formally designate May 21st through May 27, 2023 as Emergency Medical Service Week, with the theme, I quote, where emergency care begins, and encourage the citizens and communities of Franklin County to honor our responders that week.
All right.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Yes,
you guys. I mean, you guys are, yeah.
We appreciate what you do for us, and I think most people just don't understand the sacrifice that our technicians make every day to make sure that we have coverage for the county 24/7. So definitely want to applaud them for their efforts.
You know, we think about our 911 operators at our sheriff's department, and they're there
Right.
on Christmas and all the holidays, and
Right.
every time that we're out celebrating with our families, and so are you all.
Yes, that's correct.
Ready to serve whenever it's needed. How are you, are we fully staffed?
We have one opening, and we're interviewing for it on Friday.
Oh, yay.
Yes,
So much better than it was a
Yes.
couple of years ago, so,
absolutely.
all right, well, we appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
I do want to say, and I wanted to let both proclamations get read. I would say the same thing about law enforcement, same thing about EMS. And you've touched on this, Ian. I think society takes these folks for granted. I don't think we stop often enough and really just think about what it is that these individuals have to do and the psychological toll that it takes on them. I mean, you think about an incident involving law enforcement or an incident involving EMS. For most, I don't know if this is the proper word, but I'll use the word civilians. For most people in that situation, that is probably the worst day of their life. Or at the very least, it's a day that they will never forget. It is what these individuals deal with every single day, and I cannot imagine that. And I've said this before, there are a lot of jobs within the county that I believe that I personally, could do to a satisfactory level. EMS, law enforcement are absolutely not among those jobs. I don't know how they do it. From time to time, things will have to cross my desk in my counselor capacity. I don't even want to look at the pictures. I don't want to hear the details, and this is what you all do. So really appreciate that, and we try to do what we can for all employees, and we'll continue to do that, but just know that you really are appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah, I'll say we're lucky on both accounts to have the quality of service we do here. When it works, you quickly take it, or I think people are guilty of quickly taking it for granted. But when you don't have competent law enforcement, immediately it's a feeling of hopelessness. And when you don't have good emergency medical service, there's some immediate consequences for that if you're in need. So. We're lucky to have the quality of service we have on both accounts.
Absolutely.
Much. Awesome. All right, do we have any other correspondence or organizational business?
You want to make a motion to?
Oh, yeah,
approve
sorry, we
the,
need a motion to approve that proclamation.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All right. Are we now done with the correspondence and organizational business? Okay. Do we have any public comment? All right. I didn't pull it up. Our consent agenda. If I would have pulled it up, it would have been gone by now. Our consent agenda have claim vouchers in the amount of $1,307,546.25. Our minutes from the meeting on May 10th and our minutes from the study session on May 15th. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Chair Dickinson?
Yes. And we don't have any items of business today, so we'll move on to staff reports.
Yeah, we had our budget meetings last week. Couple of things. One, Janet quarterback putting all that together, did a heck of a job, so appreciate her work on that. Meetings went very well. We challenged our department heads and elected officials to bring us revenue neutral budgets, at least an alternative. So some of them brought us two, one that's not revenue neutral, one that is. Not every budget's gonna be able to do it. I don't know that as an organization, we're gonna be able to do it. We've gotta put all of that together, but the effort put forth by our leadership team was commendable because every single budget we looked at was good. And so appreciate that. A month or so, a few weeks will be with the board.
I think for June 12th and 13th are the two dates that I have temporarily slated for your budget study sessions.
12th and 13th?
Yes, I think the 12th is already a study session date, yes. And then we usually do it Monday and Tuesday. So probably be all day Monday and part of a day on Tuesday is usually what we do. So if you guys can look at your calendars and let us know if that works for you guys, for us to have all the department heads and electeds in front of you to discuss budgets.
Okay.
So regarding ARPA, I am not, I've not forgotten about that. It hasn't slipped off my radar. I have been trying to let us come to an agreement with the city of Wellsville on this ambulance station. That was delayed again. My understanding is there were concerns with a piece of the dispatch agreement, namely that we are asking them to make a contribution in 2023, but because we're not going to be in the new ambulance station in 23, they have asked that that be bumped to 24, which unless the five of you object, I'm going to make that change. And so I don't believe they meet this week, but it'll be next week. Hopefully that'll get approved by them. Then we can bring those back and have you approve them. And then I'm ready to have that ARPA discussion. So Mr. Terry, it was timely that he was in here today because we will have funds that if you so choose to use them for that purpose. But I'll remind you, we've also got requests from the city of Princeton, the city of Richmond, the city of Rantoul, and certainly there are public works projects that we could use that funding for, and potentially others as well. So you will have competing considerations there. Unless you have questions, that's all I have.
Do you have questions? Okay. All right. Paul? FCDC.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I just thought I'd follow up on Mr. Terry and the comments on the broadband. I do work with these companies, I think predominantly I'm the first contact when they come in and are looking for grants in the county, and get some, a little bit of intel for me and that type of thing, and vice versa. And so I've had conversations with John, and as you pointed out, work with, once they have the identity of the area, then I start to work on support letters from that region and the right organizations. Of course, FCDC does a support letter. And then what I've traditionally done with these, if they ask, which he did, just like he asked you, is financial support. I commit $1,000 to a project just to show ownership or partnership, I should say. And so I think that's something, obviously FCDC's funded quite extensively from the county, so you're already making some contribution, just FYI. And from the standpoint of good questions about MOCAN and the others, I kind of try to help traffic cop that when I can as well. I just had a conversation with MOCAN this morning, and they were looking at applying for a grant that would have overlapped with a lot of what you just heard today. So kind of try to help them. One of my personal goals before I leave this job is that we get this to all our citizens in the county so they have internet capabilities. I think it's important for telehealth, for education, economics, and on and on and on. So it's just like you said, it's kind of like our generation of electrification. So how do we get it? So they're getting a lot of support from the county through FCDC. I just want you to know that, and working with them pretty closely. And I'm happy to visit with Derek on my thoughts on how engaged the county might need to be financially. So happy to give my 2 cents to him as they work through that. So
I know you and I have had a lot of discussions, and you've had a lot of discussions with the board about housing. And certainly when you think about housing, it's not at all unreasonable to expect some degree of government participation in housing projects, whether that be tax rebates. I mean, there's any number of things. And you can't expect the private developer to fund all of it, or else they're going to go place where they can get the help.
Right.
I don't think this is that different than
Yeah.
that. And so I do
agree.
think a contribution is appropriate. I think if the board finds this valuable, and certainly I believe that it's valuable, then certainly I think contributions are appropriate.
Sure,
Just
sure. Yeah.
what amount and
Right,
what's that
right.
look
And
like.
I'm happy to provide insight on that to you as you make those decisions. But just wanted to give you a little background that where FCDC is engaged, so you're aware that there is basically county engagement through FCDC. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Christie, do you have anything else today? All right, Sheriff? No? All right. Janet? No? All right, well, to commissioner reports, nothing? All right, nothing? Okay.
I went to the ECAN meeting last night, and we did mainly training on weatherization projects for those people who qualify. And it's also Community Action Month. We did a proclamation a week or two ago about that, and they kind of celebrated Community Action Month also last night. And that's about it.
Nothing to add?
I just, we had the FCDC Executive Board meeting on Thursday, a chamber coffee at ORC on Friday. A lot of that was to promote, and if you live in the city limits of Ottawa, they would like to have your input on. And if you see that code, I think there's one posted out here on the park, isn't it, right along 15th Street? Anyway, they'd like to have your input on the direction that they're going. One of the things I really, really liked is they are expanding their programs for not just, that means they do kids, they've done adults, now they're expanding their programs for people over 50. And we are not seniors, we're classics, and I really like that I am a classic. And you'll be
I did attend the Area Agency on Aging, actually, since we last met. Of course, they inherited nutrition, or took it over because that had failed. Nutrition's not a sustainable business model, I guess I would call it. For years, we've heard directors have come through, or different people leading that cause, that need to evaluate where the resources are going, and the things they've always done maybe don't get the best bang for the buck, but those are sometimes difficult conversations, and that, the can's gotten kicked down the road. I do have to give credit to the director. Now, she's kind of realizing we can't keep doing that. The only reason it's running now is the federal money that's come down in the past that we all know about, but that's not gonna last forever. We need to get a sustainable model, so when that dries up, we're not in crisis. So that's gonna require some tough decisions, tough conversations. They may come back to us. I think we need to realize that, start thinking about that, and be ready to, appreciate the position that they're in and support them, so.
Awesome. The only other thing is the city of Ottawa is starting their budget with their capital improvement projects. They had a pretty extensive conversation on Monday about those. Otherwise, let Janet know if those dates are going to work for our budget. And I don't know, unless we have anything else, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.